What's up, guys? Welcome to A Reseller's Life. My name is Chris. Thank you so much for joining me. This is part of the Spotlight series. So I'm super excited to interview 35 of my favorite resellers and talk about how they organize their day and give you guys the top tips on how we actually get this done. So today we have Rebecca, the reseller. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I know it's kind of a crazy time. Why don't we start with where are you from and what's great about where you live?
Hey, so thank you so much for having me. I do appreciate it, and I hope everyone is safe and well out there. I am in Orlando, Florida. So I'm a transplant from New Jersey originally, but I am in Orlando, Florida. So we've got the weather on our side here. And as far as just generally being a reseller here in my little neighborhood, there are several resellers. Like there are a lot. Some of them occupy the same storage unit as I do, and I see them coming in and coming out when I do. So there's a lot of us here. I think thrifting can be challenging because we don't always have like the greatest brands, the most designer brands. Like to find free people sometimes is a struggle. But I do think that we have a lot of ways to source. We have 2 bins just in Orlando. We have other bins within driving distance in Florida. So I have not ventured to them yet. So there's a lot of thrifting opportunities. I just don't know how much, or maybe I haven't found them, like the upper level, upper echelons of thrifting. I haven't found it.
Fair enough. What is a downside of where you live? Is it mainly like not a ton of high-end brands?
I think it's that. I think it's that because I watch a lot of haul videos, especially those coming out of California,
Mhm.
Colorado, and I'm like drooling over it. And, I'm sure a lot of people can relate if they're in a more rural area or what. We're not a rural area. It's Orlando. It's a populated area, and we have 2 bins, which is really nice to be able to get the cheap goods. But just the level is hard. I can go to the bins for 3 hours and not come away with anything that should have an ASP of $50. I'm talking about like the bread and butter stuff. So it's challenging, but you just try to open up your sourcing opportunities to overcome it.
So with the stuff that you find, what platforms are you focusing on?
Yeah, I feel like I've been on them all. I've been on eBay and Poshmark and Mercari. Those are the 3 main. Right now, I'm whittled down and trying to focus, like get back to basics. I'm just on Poshmark right now with 1 closet, but I have had the experience of having multiple closets. Just sticking to the one right now.
That's awesome. So
Yeah,
this is going to be like the bulk of our conversation. The part that I'm really interested in is you also have a family.
yeah,
You also have a YouTube channel.
yeah.
So how do you balance your day? Do you use a calendar, a to-do list? How do you organize that whirlwind of things to do?
It's been a struggle to find an organizational system that I can stick to and that works for me without me letting things fall through the cracks, or that doesn't make me feel crazy and anxious.
Mhm.
Because I like to-do lists. I like organizing things. I've tried, you suggested Trello a long time ago. I tried
Mhm.
that. I used to do just things on my iNotes or whatever it's called,
Mhm.
on your iPhone. And I've done the calendar. And now I have what has been working lately, which is a combination of the calendar in your iPhone, the notes in your iPhone, and like a daily, weekly, reoccurring checklist that I bring into my daily note to-do list. So like I'll have a Sunday checklist, a Monday checklist, and those are things that I regularly do on those days. And I bring that into my today list, along with my daily list and along with anything that's on my calendar. And then I'm just looking at one place and checking things off and just trying to tackle as much as I can. I have a little 4-year-old, I have a husband, I stay home with them, I resell, and I have the YouTube channel. And so right now, especially with the whole homeschool thing,
Mhm.
um, I've lost all of my kid-free time. I've lost, 12 plus hours out of the week. Plus now I'm prepping homeschool plans. So there's a lot more on my plate now than there typically is. So it's just kind of retooling and being creative. And I think one of the things that people get maybe down about that I don't get down about is you can always change it. Like you can always change how you do your to-do list. You can always change what you do on what day. Your schedule is what you make of it. And so I'm constantly redoing my lists so that I can find the perfect system. maybe I won't ever find the perfect system, but I never stop trying. And I think that that's calming for me because I know I can always fix it and make it better.
That is incredible because it really it doesn't matter which system you use also. So there is no perfect system. I love the combination of a calendar and your notes. Mine is the same, just a calendar and a to-do list. I use To Do. I use Trello sometimes. I also use the notes. I also use paper. So
Yeah.
I'm curious what's on your, let's say, Sunday household list. Is that a day where you would do some house stuff? How do you organize that?
It goes different. And I just recently took a bunch of personal things off of it because I felt like I finally got into a flow where I didn't necessarily have to have it on the list anymore. Like I know it's Sunday, so I know I just do these things. But for
Mm,
a while, I struggled with when I first became a stay-at-home mom to Gio when he was first born, and then adding the reselling and then adding the YouTube. It was like, okay, I need to figure out what this life actually should be like and look like. But now I think I've kind of, I do certain loads of laundry on a Sunday. I do certain loads of laundry on a Saturday. I do colors on Wednesday. Like that's pretty basic now. I've got that situated. Dealing with the dishwasher, dealing with like what I call like long-term laundry, like the bathroom mats. I set a day of the month and I have a reoccurring thing on my calendar to wash the bathroom mats or to do my Sam's Club order because there's certain things we bulk buy once a month. That's scheduled. I always know on the 28th of the month, I'm going to order from Sam's Club so we have stuff for the next month. So that's kind of how I tackle reselling and how I tackle home tasks. I try to either a weekly or a monthly reoccurring schedule. I'm trying to think, like I order supplies on Sundays. I don't know why. I just worked out. That's the day that I go on the USPS website and I order my supplies. On I can't think of things off the top of my head right now,
no,
but everything has a
this is this is great
that's
because
okay.
I do the same thing on. I have a list that's so we grind coffee once a week
Hmm.
for coffee, and I always do that because I love
Yeah,
coffee.
yeah,
So on the coffee jar, I has all the other things I'm supposed to do, like clean the floors, vacuum, bathtub, sinks. I don't have floor mats. I'm a bathroom floor mats. So I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm going to add that to the list.
need it.
And if
Yeah,
you put it somewhere where you go, then because that's like 9 or 10 things that I do,
right.
and I'm going to forget one or two, and if I
Hmm.
forget one or two 3 weeks in a row, it's going to get gnarly where whatever that is that I
Yeah,
forgot to do.
and
So
my
I love
husband,
it.
my husband's very specific and likes things a very certain way. So it
Hmm.
drives me crazy. But and so like the sponge in the kitchen sink, this is
Yeah.
like a never ending thing that we have. I always put it on my list that on Sunday I'm supposed to switch out the sponge because it gets dirty, and you want to switch it out for a new sponge. And sometimes I don't get to it. So then I'm like, all right, I'll just deal with it on the next Sunday. Because if I do it on Thursday, then
Hmm.
that's going to throw me off for all the coming Sundays.
That's
I
right.
know that's so like sounds so silly
It's
but it
not.
does. For someone that operates by a plan and needs a plan to operate to help free up mental headspace, you'll get it. For somebody that doesn't need that, you're going to be like, you guys are crazy.
No, I love it. I just listened to this
So,
dad, or not to interrupt you. I just listened to this dad say that there's a list on, let's say, for making the school lunch.
yeah,
They alternate whichever days they're supposed to make lunch, husband or wife, whatever. But it says on there, if you see the other person can't do it, you do it. It says
right,
that on the fridge. So they're like, okay, don't even say anything because it's not productive. Just do if it's not done, the other person does it. And
right,
I'm like, that just makes sense because what's the point of arguing about the sponge if he could just do it? In that situation, I can see that kind of a
right.
situation where it's the new sponge is so glorious, but I get it, like
See,
it's
I have issues with the new sponge. While I like that it's clean, it's also like not as malleable, like it's harder and
it's stiff.
stiffer. And
Yep.
so I don't like that. I like it when it like can get inside
I got you. No,
over
I
there.
agree with you. Yeah.
Like, yeah, and I do think like because I know you like you're newishly married
Hmm.
and don't have any kids yet. Now is the time to, for my 2 cents to you, is to iron out those communication
Hmm.
things before the little ones come and are hanging on every word that you both say. Because I
Hmm.
think there's a lot of conversations that my husband and I should have that we don't, because we don't want to air all of that in front of Geo. But those conversations still need to happen. And then at the end of the day, we're exhausted and forgot what we were even talking about to begin to even try to hash that out. So like the sponge thing, that is just one of many silly examples that come up where it's like, if you did have a system and if you did take a little time in the beginning, because this would go for anything, if you take
Hmm.
a little time in the beginning to have the forethought to make the system, and then you have the fortitude to continue to perfect the system, in the end, once the system has a chance to play out successfully, it will be better. It's a little murky in the beginning, but once you let it play out, it solves a lot of problems. So
And
that's just
on that
that.
same note, I remember when I was a kid, and I have hung out with a lot of kids, and I recognized right away the kids don't listen. So here's the thing: they don't listen, but they watch.
Right.
So if you say something, but that's not what happens, then they just do what happens.
Yes.
And that's something that they model. If you don't know anything, you model. That's how you resell. If you don't
Yeah.
know what to do, you look for someone that's doing what you want to do, and then you could just copy them. That's why I think the most valuable thing a reseller could do is just spend a day with the reseller. Go
Yeah.
see what they do. If you're doing selling on Amazon, watch them make a shipment. that's
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 why we
totally
love,
different.
yeah, that's why we love, reseller vlogs and day in the life and
Hmm.
thrift with me and all of that. I mean, sometimes it is so hard and I find it very difficult because I don't have a separate camera to show what I'm doing, especially
Hmm.
when I'm needing to use my phone, which is so crucial to what I'm doing as a reseller. So like, if I just wanted to show my process when I'm like over here photographing, I can't because I'm using my phone to photograph. I don't have something else to record me doing it. But recently, I'm so excited. I just got my mom's old iPhone. So now I can record what I'm doing from this sucker. So whole world has just opened up of
I'm
what I can.
also going to give you another pro tip that I'm going to try.
Yeah.
So there's an app called I think it's Gemi, Gemi,
Hmm.
and it records the front and the rear camera at the same time.
Oh,
So you could be like talking, see you in the corner talking, and then also what you're talking about.
okay.
And instead of having a dual camera setup, which is complicated, you can now have the view of both, which
That
is
would be
which is
helpful
cool.
in certain situations. Like when I go to the storage unit, I'm trying to look
Exactly.
on my phone for what I need to pull to ship, but then I
Hmm.
can't show that I'm doing all of that. So
Hmm.
yeah, that would be good actually. Thank you. You know all these like tech things. You gave me a bunch of tips last
This
week.
would be, but I know I love it. This is so actionable. People can go home and be like, okay, a weekly list, a monthly recurring, put it in your calendar. I love
Yeah,
that you can pull that list into your daily. That
yeah.
is really smart and really
It's
actionable.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean that takes time. Like I
Hmm.
actually have, and I always say I'm going to do a video on my channel, and I haven't done it because I don't know if anybody else wants to know about this, but maybe I will. Like I have an entire year at a glance of all the things like that I need to have happen that I can pull in like on the monthly level as well. Like for us, our entire life happens at the end of the year. I don't know if we talked about this last time we talked, but like my birthday, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, my son's birthday, my husband's birthday, my mom's birthday, like everything happens at the end of the year. And so that's a crazy time. I start buying stocking stuffers in August. Like I start prepping for Christmas cards, the picture in August. And I plan every task out so that I can accomplish them all without having to accomplish them all at once and get really stressful and not be able to enjoy planning my son's birthday or the holidays or my birthday, whatever. So, like, I mean, you could really take it to a level if you wanted to plan all of this out to the point where every year I pull it up and I don't have to think about all the things that I need to do because I already know they happen every year. And so it's just an easy way to kind of free up that mental space. I know you talk about that a lot, just like
No,
getting
but
your,
I love it because you also it's a lot less stress when you know it will get done. Also, the
yeah,
fact that you recognize if it doesn't get done now, it could get done next time. If you have a routine, you know, there's only certain things that have to be done,
yeah,
and it's almost like you stack the other stuff with that so that you don't forget. Like for me, since I love coffee so much, if it runs out, I'm gonna do that first, for even if it's Wednesday.
Right.
So might as well do the rest of the stuff that's, like if you could teach your kids to do math after they brush their teeth, then they
Right.
would just get used to it and that would happen. But of course,
Right.
again, that's like you would also probably have to do that to get that habit to stick for them because they,
Well,
they, they watch you.
yeah, and speaking of habits, I did a video about habit stacking for reselling
Hmm.
moms, and I know you turned me on to the book, that Atomic Habits book.
Hmm.
I heard about it from you, and then it was kind of like all the rage on YouTube. But that was a great eye-opening thing of creating not only like the habit trigger of what kicks it off, but also the habit stacking of grouping a series of things together that makes sense to happen together. So like I started, like every night I give Gio a bath. Now I clean up the bathroom while Gio's taking a bath. And I decided, because I never do my multi-step face washing that I spent all this money on these products the last time I got a facial, like now I do it because I said every time Gio takes a bath, I'm going to do my 4-step beautiful skin, whatever thing.
What, what,
And
what is the
have
four-step
that
beautiful
happen.
skin thing?
Oh, I don't know, because I don't have beautiful skin and I don't always do it. But that is like Gio's
Mm,
bath is the trigger to wipe down things in the bathroom
mm,
and do the multi-step face treatment. And it's like,
I love it.
a cleanser and then a
Right.
toner. No, I
Hmm.
don't know. They just said one,
Moisturizer.
two,
I
three,
got you.
four, and I just
Hmm.
do it when I can.
So
Or like
the
floss your teeth. If you don't always floss your teeth, like that would be a good time to floss your teeth because you're in the bathroom already. Like
how
you can
often does Geo's bath happen? Is that daily?
pretty much. I mean, every once in a while he'll be like, "Mom, can we skip bath or something?" And we do, but most of the time it's an everyday. We've kind of put him into a routine thing too. Like he's very much now a creature of routine, and they say that that's good for kids anyway, to have that routine. So we kind of protect the routine. Like there's pretty much always nap. There's pretty much always bath. Like it's a little rigidish.
I really like it because in that book and in other books they mention that 70% of the things you do during a day are automatic. You don't even know that you're doing them.
Yep.
So there's even people who argue that we don't have free will because there's things that you need to do, so your body just gets in the gear and starts doing them. This is why I hear parents, especially moms, say, "I don't have a list." And I'm like, "How do you not have a list if there's like a million things you need to do?" But
Right.
they do have a goal somewhere in there, like make sure your kid stays alive. So there's other things that happen automatically so your kid is well and
Yeah,
alive.
and
So
the thing is, for a while I had too many things on my
mm,
list, and it was um, a sense of anxiety because I couldn't get to the things that I needed to seek out to do because I was too busy reviewing the things that I was going to do anyway. And that's why I said, like, I took a bunch of personal household things off so that I could say, listen, at the end of the day is not a total failure if I do these 5 things, and they're 5 out of the ordinary things that legit have to happen
mm,
today, not wipe down the bathroom while Gio's taking a bath and doing all this stuff, because either
mm,
that's going to happen or it's not. And the world isn't going to come crashing down if I don't. That's
hmm.
just my, like, in order to keep everything copacetic, these things should kind of happen generally regularly.
Yeah, I agree. That's like the putting the 5 rocks in first and then all the little stuff around it. If it gets done, it gets done. If not, then
Yeah,
it doesn't. That's like dinner would be a major thing that needs to happen or it will throw off a bunch of stuff. And but if it's like what kind of dinner is less important.
I hate dinner. I hate dinner so much. I hate dinner so much.
That
I'm
that's probably my biggest time hack is the weekly meal plan. Who
Yeah.
knows if that'll happen if and when I have kids, but how do you handle meal planning?
Well, so my husband, like, not was a chef, but went to cooking school, was a cook in restaurants previously. So all through our prior to Geo and prior to him having this current job that he has, he's always done the cooking.
Mm.
And that's worked well because most people like him cook with love. And I cook with anxiety and frustration. And so,
Mm.
like, nobody wants to eat that all day. So it is a major process for me to make dinner. It does not come naturally to me. It's a whole plan and a list and a recipe and a follow. And like, no one can talk to me while it's happening. And so when Gio was little, dinner was like, I tried to start 3 hours in advance because that's how, like, crazy it made me. And then you've got this little one and all this stuff. Now it's a little bit easier because he can play Legos and keep himself, okay while I do the dinner thing. But I try to stick to like some basics that I make all the time, that I just rotate through them. I don't really make a plan anymore because things would change. We'd all of a sudden feel like we should eat out that night, or Gio would ask for something specific for dinner and I wanted to try to honor that, or whatever. So I don't really make a dinner plan anymore, but I do have like a rotating Gio approved, husband approved, doesn't make me want to jump off a cliff set of dinners that I can make
So I
in
mean, that
the next
still is
4
that
years.
is a plan. You have basics that people
Yeah.
can are
Make
agreeable.
a meal plan, like some
Yeah.
women, and there's like a whole mom culture out there, like people put their meal plan on Instagram and people
Mhm.
follow it and all that. Like I can't commit to that. Like that's way too stressful.
I think that, for ours, it's like maybe 12 different ideas and it's not in order. So you just
Right.
pick something that you feel like. But again, even that, we know once in a while we're going to eat out. Once in a while we're
Right.
going to hodgepodge something, or somebody said something on a blog and we want to try that. So I get it.
Yeah.
That's great. The flexibility is something also that you recognize. Rigidity sounds fake because when you talk to parents, they don't, you know what, my day is exactly how I plan it. I've never heard that one time. It does
No.
not doesn't work. So
No.
so what is the biggest obstacle in your productivity?
Well, I think it's large blocks of time.
Mm,
I, you know, when my channel was the Reseller Mom Show, and now I've kind of gotten away from that. Now it's just Rebecca the Reseller, and just trying to stick to reselling stuff and not necessarily be, the mom person. When I talked about things like that, it was all the ideas and tips and tricks and hacks to fit your reselling into what I would call like the pockets of time that you find throughout the day.
mm-hmm,
Like my husband may say, I've got him, we're going to go for a bike ride. That means I have 15 minutes. What am I going to do in those 15 minutes to be productive with my life?
mm-hmm.
And how, what can I get done? That means the reselling room has to be ready so that I could just jump in, take 5 pictures and jump back out again and then be ready to deal with dinner. Or, Gio's at school, and so now I have 4 hours. What am I going to do with that time? That's the largest chunk of time I've ever had to work on my business in the last 4 years. And so what you can do in 4 hours is very different from what you can do in 20 minutes or 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And so like I crave just having a whole work day. Like that would
Hmm.
be a treat to me. It blows my mind what I could accomplish if I had an 8-hour work day again. I mean, I used to work in the real world and I used to work long hours, and I like to think of myself as a ambitious, career focused person. And then I made the decision to stay home and all of that went out the window. And now all the lines are completely blurred between home and life and geo and reselling, and it's all over the place.
Hmm.
And so having a chunk of time where I can literally just put my businesswoman hat on and be a businesswoman for 8 hours, that would just be the most amazing thing. So like,
Do you have a designated area where you work?
yeah, I have the reselling room, which I'm in now. So I have
Mm-hmm.
my rack of clothes and my lights are set up so I don't have to put them, away all the time. That took a lot of negotiating with the husband to get, but I finally got it. And so this room is the reselling room. I don't necessarily work in here most of the time. The work, other than taking photos and stuff, happens like at the kitchen table, or if I even want to go on my patio or something, when I'm just doing listings or, YouTube comments or doing reseller research or whatever. So when I'm just doing computer work, I'm usually not in here because the desks have now taken over like a shipping station and listing station. So it's not really conducive for like an office anymore.
There's some great tips in there. The if you have to break your day up, then you can't set. When you have those 15 minutes, they're really valuable. You can't be using 14 of them setting it up. You got
No,
to go directly into the work.
and figuring out what you should be
Yeah.
doing. So I mean, there was a good period, and again now Gio's a little older, so it's a little bit different. But when he was smaller, and I always tell like moms, probably the hardest age that I've experienced thus far is 1.5 to 2.5, because they're old enough to like get themselves in trouble, but not old enough to really be on their own for too long. Geo now can be in the other room playing Legos and I can be in here and I know that the house isn't going to burn down. Like even I'm still here, I'm still keeping an eye on him, we still check in, but I don't need to be on him like white on rice. So like I used to have something started in every room of the house as he would crawl around and do things. Like, look, folding laundry would be started over here, but then when he went in the other room, I was taking pictures over there while he was sitting in one spot playing with something. And then I started something over here. And so by the end of the day, before my husband would come home, I would rush around at 5 o'clock to try to finish everything that I had started throughout the day,
Mm-hmm.
and get everything cleaned up before he realized the ruckus that took over his house while he was gone. But now it's a little bit different. I do have the reselling room. I can leave the lights out, which is a huge hack and time saver to be able to have that set up open and have my inventory bags and everything open, having a clothing rack with things actually hung up and prepped and ready to go, so that if I did have 15 minutes, I know I can come in here, jam out at least 5 items in 15 minutes, and those are done and complete. I know that I have drafts on my phone always, so at any moment I could list an item, and that's helpful. But I mean, that also too takes time to develop the forethought of what you need and when and how you need it, and then having the continued passion to like see it through and continue to make the system what you want until you get it right.
I'm taking notes like crazy. I love this. So this is cool because when I think of how it works, it sounds to me like you just constantly get interrupted. But if you have a system where it's kind of like, okay, I have some time now, that to me sounds more workable, and rather than I'm trying to work interrupted. Like if it takes 20 minutes to regain your focus, that's different than boom, I can be focused now for a minute.
And I
Knock it
think
out.
I talk about it in reseller mom years. Like I started reselling when Gio was 6 months old, so he's about to be 4.5. So it'll be almost 4 years that I've been reselling. And you would think that and it's almost about, haven't you been reselling about that long? It's
Mm-hmm.
like similar time. And what you've been able to do in that time frame and what I've been able to do in that time frame are starkly different. And so that speaks to the nature of what I call reseller mom years. And so, it's like my time is started and stopped and paused and moved here and moved there because reselling isn't even my job. It's like the fourth thing down the ladder. Sometimes I can make it first. When Gio's at school, reselling becomes my first priority. But, like when that's not happening, like now, it's Gio and then my husband and then homeschooling and then the household and then reselling. Now it's bumped down to fifth. So how am I ever going to be able to say, yes, I can list more, I can grow my business, I can scale, I can do whatever, when I can't even like make it through the day half the time? And every day looks different as far as what you can get done because your family's needs change. And then if you're a person that has a full-time job and you're a reseller and your mom, then that's a whole other story. Or you're a stay-at-home dad. I keep saying mom, but obviously there are dads that resell and stay home with the kids or whatever the situation. So I think that I don't want to have regrets or anything, but I wish that I had found out about reselling pre-Geo because I could have set myself up and made all these crazy mistakes that I've made and false starts before him to where I would be the well-oiled machine that I know I will be someday. And I could have had a different looking business. I mean, obviously you can't go back, but I'm happy with all the mistakes I've made and learned from in these 4 years. But I think my business would look a lot different if I wasn't a reseller mom and I was just a reseller, or if I had started reselling, before him.
What is something that you would do if you could start over right now? Let's say pre-Geo and post-Geo. What would you do differently?
I'd build a lot more slowly. And in that, like, I got to some great height or anything. And I mean that by like, I hired a photographer very early on because I just couldn't get the work done. And it was right at when Gio was about 1.5 years. And I had a photographer for almost 3 years. I hired a VA, several different VAs, and I just recently let them both go. And I don't think I fully knew what I wanted my business to be when I hired them. I don't think I had a process. I had a process that I trained them on, but the process changed over time so much that it doesn't even resemble what it was in the beginning. And so I wished I had really done it more slowly. Like I could have done less listings and fine-tuned a process over time and then hired someone and then jammed it out, rather than hiring somebody in the beginning so I could do more without really having all the experience behind me. And so it costs a lot of money, money that could have been in my pocket. So I think about all the money that I've paid the photographer and money that I paid the VA. And I don't think I'm any more farther along in my reselling journey as far as growth because of it. I just traded time for money. And so I think I should have just kept it myself for a longer period of time and then used help like that to blow it up.
That's very wise, because small and clear
Yeah.
is better than big and random. So when you
As
keep it
you
tight,
now, where were you 4 years now?
yeah. If I knew that when I started, I mean, I tell people that there are businesses that a family earns $50 to $500 a month extra net, and they know what it is, and it's small, and it's in one room, and it's confined, and
Yeah.
everyone's a happy camper. I know stores that do 20,000 a month, and everyone hates each other. They don't know what's going on. They don't know how much money they're earning.
Yeah.
It stresses everybody out, and it's making revenue. Then they have great photo pictures on Instagram with huge piles of orders,
Yeah.
but on the back, there's a lot to it.
And there's a
Um,
big difference with, like you say, revenue and profit. And one of the like mantras for this year that I had for myself was profit, because I was always chasing sales. How can I sell more? How can I get more sales? The number of sales, the dollar amount of the sale. And I was not really focused on the profit. And I think sometimes when you operate as a business with so many moving parts and you have people helping you and then you're on multiple platforms, it is a nightmare to figure out how profitable you actually are. Like, it's crazy. I know you have your own, not issues, but like you talk about the accounting and what a bear it is. And you've talked about that before. And I feel the same way. It's so hard sometimes just to know how much freaking money you make at the end of the day. And what you keep in the business versus what you pay yourself. Like, I read the book Profit First.
mhm.
This guy, Mike McAllowitz, I listened to it. I don't read
It's a
it.
great book.
Yeah, it was a great book. And he's got a few other ones that I liked. And there's a few more that I want to read from him. And I really took that to heart. And I've been implementing that over the last few months. And it's really changed the finances of my business. So I would highly recommend it. And I think for someone that maybe struggles with paying themselves and trying to figure out how to do that, it's worth a look. I was treating it like a business, and I had all of these ideas and things that went along with what I thought a business should be doing. And I didn't look at it as, I just need to make my own job. Like, I just need to have a job. And once I get good at a job, then I can make a business. But I was so intent on like business, brand, expenses, business fund, people, helping, whatever, all this crap. No, like, I just need to focus on making a good job for myself. And when I can do that, then I can make a business again.
Just so many notes. Because I
We can
that
talk
concept. Well,
often.
the thing is, you've mentioned a bunch of like my favorite books in the sense of like, I get in trouble by saying, look at how much money you want to make first. That's what you would do when you approach a job. How much does the job pay for what I do to see if it's worth
Right,
it or not? But for
right.
some reason, reselling doesn't matter how much you make. It's just for a lot of people until you do it for a while and you're like, what am like? I no longer have any hobbies. I don't have any friends. My house is crazy, and I don't know how much money I'm making. I can't spend the money that's in inventory.
Yeah. Well, like when I
Uh,
went to my accountant for the first time when I had him do my books, not my books, but like taxes for the whatever. He said, he's like, so you make this, but and I said, but I didn't really pay myself that. Like, it looked, because I'm not like filing as a separate business entity. It's all under,
mhm.
us as a married couple or whatever. and sole proprietor. And so if you have 50, $60,000 in sales, that sounds great. But what I actually paid myself, or what is the, profitable, what is it, taxable income, is less, of course, minus all your expenses and everything. But then what I actually paid myself out of that is a whole other smaller, much smaller number. And so, he was saying, he's like, listen, don't get crazy about wanting to make more money. If you have people that are working for you, because at that time I did have the VA and I had the photographer, he's like, and you can, pay them, pay your expenses, do this amount of revenue, and then just, take this little bit for yourself, and you didn't do any of the work. That's business. That's what everybody should be striving for, is not doing all of the work and making a little bit of money off the top. Then you scale that from there and make more and more off the top without doing all of the work. But the problem is, even when you do that, even when you have a VA and you have a photographer, we're still doing a lot of the work. Like, I'm still sourcing, I'm still organizing, I'm still shipping, I still have all this stuff, I'm still managing the listing. So it's not a completely turnkey, automated operation, which is why I, kind of changed to, I need to just focus on a job for a little while. And then ultimately, my ultimate goal would be to have an automated reselling business, like a business that could support multiple people doing all of the main functions, to where I could choose to work in that business today or not. And whatever that makes, because then I would have multiple income streams after that. So that would be the ultimate goal.
Yeah, that is. So, let's say, for example, you were to take a local pizza shop or any restaurant or any small business, and you were to ask the owner, hey, is your job 9 to 5? It's not, right? They're going in 4 hours before it opens. They're staying late. They're probably divorced. Like, the odds are really bad that they have any kind of work-life balance, right?
Man, pizzeria people can be rough. I used to work in a pizzeria.
Yeah, so you have that thing, that you have that entity, right? And then you're like, okay, so now you're supposed to just running a business. We're just going to give that to a busy parent to fit in the cracks, right? It doesn't work. For you, I think that's a really realistic point of view, in a sense that it is kind of a job, as unsexy as that sounds. You need to outsource some of it. Otherwise, it's being a business owner and a parent at the same time. On paper, doesn't add up.
Yeah.
There's not enough time.
Right.
But I get it.
I think that's why the missteps and I wouldn't trade any of, it's all learning. I like my failures just as much as I like my successes, because I enjoy learning, and I have to break things in order to really take the lesson away. If you told me everything to do, I'm so anti-authority that I wouldn't necessarily even do what you said if it was the right thing to do, because I have to do it myself. I mean, that's, entrepreneurial person, whatever. So, like, all of the missteps that I've made, I think sometimes come from a lack of perspective and clarity that you get when you are able to just sit and relax into your business for a little bit. And I'm just constantly focused on shoving things in these pockets of time and taking the photos and getting something done. It's very task oriented. It's not very strategy, big picture, perspective oriented. I don't have that luxury. And so I think that's why some of the things that have happened in my journey have happened, because I don't have the time to sit and reflect and like settle into an idea. I'm just trying to do and execute real fast when I can to get things done and make the use of the time. So hopefully, as Gio, he'll be in like a VPK, like a pre-K next year, if there's ever school again. God, I don't know. And then, and then he'll be in kindergarten. So my goal is, by him going to kindergarten, or really probably at the end of that kindergarten year, when he is in 5-day-a-week, full day school, if I haven't figured out and got all my gosh darn reselling ducks in a row by then I'm done with this. Like, then that is it. I throw in the towel, because if I can't make it work by then I shouldn't be doing it anymore. That's the point, past delusional at that point. So my goal is to just try to get everything squared away this year and next year, so that I can be making the money I want to make in this business by that time.
So, the I normally ask this question, which is the hardest question, which is the what one thing would you do that would improve your resale business the most? But
Mhm.
what you just mentioned is always the most important thing, which is figuring out the procedure somebody else can help you. How do you go about doing that? So let's say reselling is accounting, bookkeeping, listing, photography, all that stuff. How do
Mhm.
you sort those roles, those responsibilities? How do you organize that? Do you have a way of recording how it's done? And that would be the basis of how somebody else does it for you. Now, how did you train your VAs?
I mean, God, it was a long time. I mean, my VA, I had her for 3 years.
Mhm.
And then I had my photographer for about 2.5 years. I let her go first. So, like I said, the business or what I was having them do when I hired them was completely different than where they ended up and what they were doing for me, and what I even want to do going forward. And that's the problem is if I in our quest to constantly daily improve and daily refine and all the stuff that I love about your channel, there is also a cost of changing directions and moving and not staying the course. And sometimes the gamble would have been better spent just staying the course, and sometimes the gamble would have been better moving and changing till you find the thing. So I don't know what I would have them do now, and that's why I let them go, so that I could really truly figure it out at this stage in the game, what I want my business model to really be, what would I actually be happy doing, what can I actually get my hands on as far as items, what is that going to cost me? Because I can make all the plans in the world. I made a million plans, and how much do I want to make, and reverse engineer the cost and how many things and sell-through rate and all of that. But if you can't actually execute that plan, all the stupid paperwork is just a waste of giant time. I have to sit and get the perspective of like, am I going to order liquidation? Is that going to make me happy and make me the money I want? Am I going to source one-off home runs only and be prepared to walk into a thrift store, spend 4 hours of kid-free time there, and then literally walk out with nothing if I don't find a $50 item to sell that day? Like, I can only answer those questions after sitting and mulling it all over. So it's hard for me to answer what I would have somebody do for me going forward, because I don't even know what the heck I want to do right now. I know what
Fair.
I had them do, and I did a lot of videos on like the process of hiring a VA and what I had them do. And I have, on my Etsy store, like sample job descriptions that people can just take from me about how to make a job description for a VA. Like, I put a lot of that kind of thought in there for people to use. And I think the best thing when hiring a VA, and it doesn't have to be an overseas VA, it could be someone that you just like. My first VA was a girl that lived 3 towns over. I never met her. I hired her over the internet, on Facebook, and she did the work remotely for me, and she shared my closet for me. So it doesn't have to be this scary somebody in the Philippines or the Ukraine, or people get crazy about like, I don't want to be involved in my business and whatever. You could hire somebody really easy to do it, but have them share your closet. Like, that's the biggest game changer right there. Everything else after that is gravy, but if you can get someone to share your closet on Poshmark, you're good. Like, that's the way to do it.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me today.
Thank you. This
This
was
is
awesome.
very enlightening. I took like 2 pages of notes. What is the best way for people to reach you or contact you or find you online?
Yeah, I'm Rebecca the Reseller on Instagram and on YouTube. So those are my two spots.
So before I let everyone go, everyone subscribe to her channel. I'll put the link in the description below.
Thank you.
But I think that the thing, first, I want to commend you for reaching out there and building your own thing, because that takes a lot of courage and it's very hard, especially with all your responsibilities.
Thank
And I
you.
want to talk about my favorite tip, which for you is the recurring monthly, weekly ideas that are electronic. And then you can just copy and paste those into the today list. That is very, very useful and actionable. And it's also flexible. So you
Yeah.
don't have to, if it doesn't get done today, add it to tomorrow's list. And in the app that I use to do, the reason why I pick this app and from the million that I've tried is if you don't do it today, it just moves it to tomorrow.
Oh, does it?
So that's the reason why
Oh,
it's, for me, it's nice because, then you look at it 5 days in a row and you're like, why do I not, have I not sent this thank you
kind
card?
of just need to like
Right.
marinate.
Exactly. But then it's every day, it's like, what's wrong with you? So then after a while, you start to realize, okay, this is the most important thing. Do this. So I
Where's
like
the
that.
app that says what's wrong with you? Why haven't you flossed your teeth today? Or where's that
Exactly. For
app?
sure. Well, thank you so much. And for everybody out there, we'll see you on the next episode. Make progress daily.